A very popular modification is re-gearing the axles in your truck or car. Now, whether you have a lifted off-road truck on big old mud tires or you've got a quarter-mile racer, stepping up to a numerically higher set of gears goes a long way towards improving the acceleration of your project. In fact, when it comes to performance mods, it has a very high bang for the buck. Now, when you're building differentials, though, there are a lot of specialized tools involved. Really, the bare minimum would consist of a dial indicator, some calipers, and 2 different torque wrenches, one that reads in inch-pounds and one that also reads in foot-pounds. Some axles even require a case spreader, so you can imagine if you had to go out and buy all these tools at once, you'd have to lay out quite a bit of cash. Now, one of the more important steps of building a differential is setting pinion bearing preload. That's basically just a measurement of how much force or drag it takes to spin the pinion in the housing without a ring gear and without a carrier attached. If you have too much pinion bearing preload, the bearings will cook. And if you have too little, that pinion could wobble around, potentially ruining that brand new, very expensive set of gears. To precisely set the amount of pinion bearing preload, many axles use a crushed collar. That's basically just a small piece of metal that sits in between the 2 pinion bearings. As you tighten the pinion nut, the collar will crush, getting closer together. The closer the bearings are together, the more drag you'll have. But here's the problem. It takes a tremendous amount of force to torque the pinion nut and crush the collar. And you can't just zip it on with an impact gun either, because a very small turn of the nut can have a very large impact on the preload. Now, if you go too far, the collar is ruined. You have to take everything apart and start all over from the beginning. So that's something you want to nail the first time around. Now, you can actually buy a pinion holding tool. And heck, I've even seen guys go out and use a pipe wrench or a big pair of water pump pliers. But that's really not the right way to do this. So I'm going to show you how to save some money and build your own pinion holding tool with stuff you probably already have laying around the shop. All you need is a scrap of pipe, a little bit of plate steel, a drill, some bits, and of course a welder. We'll need 2 pieces of 1/4-inch steel, roughly the same size. First, mark for a hole using the yoke, allowing enough room for a socket in the middle. Clamp together in a vise and drill both pieces at the same time so they match. Then, round the corner and clean up the edges. I'll bolt each piece to the yoke, then set it in position to tack weld the tabs to the pipe. Then unbolt the yoke and burn in the tabs permanently. Well, there you go. It only took us about 20 minutes and it didn't cost us a dime. We have our very own pinion holding tool that'll let us accurately torque that pinion nut and set the bearing preload.